The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Kalshi. Make real money predictions, predicting sports. Make real money predicting sports. Kalshi is available in all 50 states, and you also get $20 free when you sign up with the promo code SGPN. That's Kalshi, promo code SGPN. And welcome, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Currently early Saturday morning, January 17th, around 3 a.m. Eastern. I'm as always, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to do the first of the two Aussie Open preview episodes. We have the men's episode, and this one, women's episode, is going to be happening later. But either way, we are here to break down the first Grand Slam event of the calendar year. Should be fun. Of course, we're going to deep dive the quarters as well. Then we'll get into the lock and dog picks at the end of the show. Before we get into the actual breakdown of the Aussie Open, though, a reminder that if you want to support the show, like and subscribe on YouTube. And a reminder, you can also find the podcast audio only on Spotify or Apple. It's a couple ways to support the show. Like and subscribe on YouTube, leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. Plus, a reminder, we have a nice discount code on the merch store. So if you do go to the merch store on the SGPN website, you can check out the new items that we have for the new year. And right now, get 10% off everything in the merch store with the promo code 2026 at checkout. So check out the Tennis Gambling Podcast merch that we have, sweatshirts, t-shirts, mugs, all the fun stuff, different colors. Think you'll like the options that we have. But once again, use the code 2026 at checkout for 10% off everything in the SGPN merch store. So moving on to the recap of what happened for the final in Adelaide and in Auckland. Starting off with the bad news for the lock and dog, we ended up losing both. For the lock, we had Humbert moneyline at minus 125. Now, Humbert made it close in the first two sets. Then he ended up falling apart in the third. Probably should have won the first set. Ended up going up a break early and then gave it right back. But either way, Makic was solid, got the job done, and Humbert ran out of gas there in the third set. So people lost with that one. For the dog, bit of a heartbreaker too. We had Baez and Mensik combined breaks over 4.5 at plus 105. They combined for 3. We had a bit of a crazy, I'd say, ending to that match as Mensik broke to serve for the match. Then he got broken back, and then Baez had a chance to force a third set. They had 3 combined breaks. The extra set would have helped, but we didn't get it, as Mensik did win in straight sets. People lost there for the lock and dog, which means that Makic and Mensik both won ATP titles, which means it was definitely a solid weekend for the Czechs, because 2 separate guys from Czech Republic ended up winning titles. So good for them and good for us. The good news for the actual final, Makic won the event at 16-1. So a nice outright winner for us. Definitely nice to hit any outright regardless of price, but 16-1 is a very, very good number, and I'm happy that we're able to cash that. So even though we did lose the lock and dog, Makic winning ended up being a solid plus for us, and hopefully you ended up tailing that at 16-1. He was great for the entire event. I thought that Humbert would beat him, but either way, he did not. He proved me wrong and was able to cash our pre-tournament outright at 16-1. So we had a pretty good read on that event in Adelaide. We chose to skip the favorites, went a bit bolder with a couple of, I'd say, shots in the teens, and Makic got there at 16-1. So a nice outright to get us ready for the Aussie Open, and we'll get into that event in a second. To get into the actual, I'd say, deep dive of those 2 matches, though, Mensik one was pretty crazy at the end of the second set. Mensik broke to serve for the match, ended up getting broken right back. First time he got broken in the entire match. And then Baez had 3 set points in the breaker, and he did not convert. And Mensik got the job done there in the breaker and eventually in straight sets. For the other match, Makic and Humbert, once again, it was a very fun match for the first 2 sets. Then Humbert, you could tell, was barely holding on. In the service games, Makic looked very solid the entire way through, and he was able to get the job done there in 3 sets. But once again, Makic at 16-1 was a very nice outright to add to our 2026 collection. Now, besides that, though, time to move on into the Aussie Open. So before we get into any of the actual Aussie Open discussion, briefly looking at the actual news that's going on in tennis. I don't think I saw anything new going on. I was just quickly seeing if I did miss anything from the last episode. No, I didn't really see anything else. I'll mention the women's matches that happened in the next episode for the WTA. But besides that, I don't really see much else. The other news in Aussie Open stuff is that Kokkinakis did withdraw from the event. So if you were looking for him to participate, the injury unfortunately was too much to handle, and Kokkinakis had to drop out from the event entirely. Anyway, moving on to the Aussie Open. So on the men's side, recent winners. We know Sinner has been quite good at the event lately. Two-time defending champion, ended up beating Zverev in straight sets last year, beat Medvedev in 5 the year prior. Djokovic beat Tsitsipas the year before that, and Nadal beat Medvedev in that crazy epic a couple of years ago. But Sinner, once again, has been running the show here as he's two-time defending champion. Now, for the first quarter, this is the Alcaraz quarter, so I'm going to use DraftKings as the odds, at least to read them off. I shopped around, though, did find better numbers, but I'm going to use it for convenience. So starting off with the first quarter, Alcaraz minus 500, de Minaur's plus 900, Bublik is 10-1, Paul 16-1, Court is 25-1, Tiafoe is 25-1, Fokina 25-1. Berrettini's healthy, has de Minaur in the first round, but still at 40-1, and you kind of get the point. So Alcaraz, we know, has really not been as good in the Aussie Open as he has been in the other Grand Slams. A reminder that Alcaraz has already won the French Open, he's already won Wimbledon, he's already won the US Open. However, he's actually never reached a final in the Aussie Open. So this is his worst Grand Slam based on results. So maybe he could find a way to lose. The fact that he ended up getting rid of his head coach, maybe that'll linger into this one. But simply put, I think Alcaraz wins the quarter. I mean, I'm reading off the names here. I'm not going to go Alcaraz by himself, though. I am going to go with the secondary guy just in case, because Alcaraz, with a new coaching staff and with his lack of long-term success in the Aussie Open, I think is worth maybe having a backup plan for. But minus 400, I think is a decent number. Will I bet the straight? No. I think if you want to parlay it, sure. But I mentioned it before on the show. If I'm going to pick a guy to win the quarter and the odds are basically over minus 200 or minus 300, then I'm still going to mention the odds, but I'm personally not going to bet it. I'm not betting Alcaraz to win the quarter at minus 400, but I think he should win the quarter. So that's kind of why I'm mentioning that now. However, I am going to go with a secondary guy. It will not be de Minaur, who has Berrettini in the first round. What a wild match there in the first round. But either way, I will go with Bublik at 12-1 as my longer shot wild card for the first quarter. Will he beat Alcaraz? Probably not. However, I do think based on the form, the fact that he just won a title in Hong Kong, and the fact that his form from last year carried over, he's now a top 10 player in the world ranking-wise. I think 12-1 is a good deal. I mean, looking at the draw for Alcaraz, though, it's pretty favorable with Walton, probably Svaja in there, Korda maybe, but Korda doesn't scare me at all. Fokina, I don't trust him either, just based on consistency. Bublik, though, has Brooksby in the first round. Brooksby really didn't look great in the last event that he was in. Fucsovic, Kaboli, but either way, I do think Bublik's draw is manageable, and I do think that 12-1 is definitely worth considering, at least for this price and the form that Bublik is in. I'll go for him as my long shot flyer in the first quarter. Moving on to the second quarter, this is going to be the Medvedev quarter. Now, Medvedev we saw win a title, and then he took last week off. Plus 200. Zverev is plus 220. Felix at 6-1. Rublev's at 8-1. Tien is at 10-1. Cerundolo's 25-1. Nori's 25-1. Once you get to Nori, I could have stopped a couple names ago. It should be pretty top-heavy for this quarter. With Medvedev, Zverev, if Felix can find a way to turn the clock back to the US Open last year, maybe he could find a way to the semis. But either way, Medvedev is the favorite, and the question is, should he be over Zverev? I think the answer is yes. We mentioned many times before that Medvedev owns the head-to-head against Zverev, and the fact is Medvedev, in his first event this year, looked really good as he won the title. So the fact that Medvedev has a pretty good draw, nobody really scary in his section. You're looking at Rinderknech being the ranked guy in his immediate section, followed by Felix or Tien. I think that simply put, Medvedev has been in great form. I think that he is a good price here at plus 210. I'll go for him. We know that he has made the final here a couple of times. I think it's a good spot for him to keep it rolling here after winning the title a couple weeks ago. Give me Medvedev at plus 210. However, the question is, will I take anybody else? Because Zverev at 220, Felix 6-1, you could argue are intriguing. I will disagree. I've barely seen Felix play this season. Zverev, we've not really seen much either. And the fact is, Zverev is a guy who just gets owned by Medvedev over and over again. Not interested in Zverev here. I will pass. Give me Medvedev by himself at plus 210 as my only choice for the second quarter. Before we get into the other quarters for the Aussie Open, a reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, AVO. Make real money betting on sports with AVO, and they have a great overall sports betting tool that helps you make profit every time when you decide to place bets by using arbitrage, and plus EV opportunities for you to capitalize on to keep it organized. If you don't know what that is, you can use their video guide, so it'll give you a step-by-step process to show you how to actually do the arbitrage, etc. But if you want to check out AVO, go to avo.bet, use the code SGPN at sign up for $18 off. That's avo.bet, code SGPN for $18 off your purchase. We're also brought to you by Kalshi, real money prediction market available in every state. Trade tons of markets in sports, the NFL, college football, college basketball, NBA, NHL, and more. Plus, you can also trade props like first touchdowns. Besides sports, they also have options like politics, entertainment, and even the weather. And if you want to check out Kalshi and you're new to the platform, new customers get $20 when they use the code SGPN at sign up. That's Kalshi, Kalshi, code SGPN for a free $20 at sign up. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Cam podcast. Finished going through the first two quarters of the Aussie Open. Time to go on into the third quarter. This is the Djokovic quarter. Now, Joker is the favorite by a decent amount. He's plus 140. Fritz is plus 350. Musetti is at 650. Hurkacz, who looked good in the United Cup, is at 7-1. Lashka is at 12-1. Makic off the title is at 14-1. Mensik off the title is at 16-1. Dimitrov's at plus 2,000. Nakashima is at 20-1. For Joke, Tsitsipas is at 20-1. But you get the point. So we know Joker, even though he was not able to beat Alcaraz or Sinner last year in the Grand Slams, the point is, was he still successful? Yes, he still found a way into the semis in all four Grand Slams. So the fact is, he tends to be pretty good at taking care of business in his actual quarter. Now, for the draw for Djokovic, it's not bad. I mean, Martinez, followed by Ottman, probably Nakashima, who he should end up beating. Same half section as Mensik. I think Joker should probably get by. I know he has not played much this season. It's fine. He dropped out of Adelaide, but he was able to play an exhibition against Tiafoe, beat him handily in straight sets. I think that Djokovic is the guy in this quarter. Not going to reinvent the wheel here. I found plus 175, so I'll take the value. Shopping around free 35 cents. Joker, we know, in Grand Slams, might not be good enough to beat Alcaraz or Sinner, but I think we'd agree that he's arguably the third best player in the world still, which is an insult to Zverev, but it's still true at this point. I think 175 is a good price. I'll take Djokovic at plus 175. I will not take Fritz. We know that he was not exactly great health-wise in the United Cup. I believe he said he hurt his knee, so we'll see how he looks in this one. Hurkacz was intriguing, but I don't really know if I like the draw too much for Hurkacz. So looking at the actual draw, Berg's in the first round, Griekspoor in the second round, Mensik in the third, then he'd have to go up against Djokovic. It's not a great draw when you have Mensik and Joker back-to-back. So I'll pass. But give me Joker by himself at plus 175 for the third quarter of the Aussie Open. Moving on to the fourth quarter, the Sinner quarter. I'm really going to spend no time on this. Sinner's minus 700. Shelton's at 9-1 after losing to Baez on hard court. Good luck with that. He has Humbert, by the way, in the first round. Not ideal there. Fonseca at 14-1. Humbert off of the runner-up finish at 16-1. Khachanov 16-1. Ruud at 16-1. You get the point. Just give me Sinner. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Just give me the best player in the world. And hardcore, two-time defending champion, I found minus 550. Once again, not going to actually bet it, but I don't see him losing. And when Shelton is the second favorite in the quarter, damn, your quarter's weak. Good enough for me. Give me Sinner minus 550 for this one. Anyway, moving on to outrights. Now, last year, I remember we had a foolproof system. We bet on two guys in every event. We bet on Sinner, we bet on Alcaraz, and we picked nobody else for the entire year, and we went 4-0. Why? Because everybody else stinks. Sinner and Alcaraz are clearly the best two players in the world. You could argue that maybe if you want to include Djokovic, you can. I don't think Djokovic will ever beat Sinner again. I've said this for about a year and a half at this point, and Sinner has been very good against him because he's better at the stage in their careers. Djokovic had the moment against Alcaraz in the Aussie Open a couple years ago, but simply put, I do think you're looking at a spot where Sinner and Alcaraz are, of course, the guys to beat in every Grand Slam. They've been running the actual sport for over a year. I don't see that changing. Give me the same foolproof formula that worked last year. Only Sinner, only Alcaraz. Ignore everybody else and just give me the pure chalk. Sinner, minus 115, and give me Alcaraz at plus 175. For the other odds here, Djokovic is at 16-1. Medvedev's at 25-1 if you want to go for that flyer. Zverev's at 35-1. Fritz at 60-1. De Minaur 65-1. I mean, who are we kidding? It's men's tennis. You're not going to see any of these random people winning. If you want to argue Medvedev as a potential flyer or Djokovic at 16-1, have fun, but it will not be me. Give me the pure chalk until it doesn't work anymore. Until somebody wins a Grand Slam not named Alcaraz or Sinner, I will not bet on them. So give me Alcaraz and Sinner as my only two choices for the outrights once again in the Aussie Open. So once again, to read off the outrights for the quarters here, first quarter, Alcaraz minus 400 and a flyer. Bublik at 12-1. For the second quarter, I'm going to go with Medvedev by himself at plus 210. I'll ignore Zverev, not interested, especially since Medvedev owns him in the head-to-head. For the third quarter, give me Joker by himself. Not a fan of the other players' draws in the quarter, and I think Joker should look sharp in the Aussie Open like he always does. He might lose in the semis, but good enough for me. I do think that he should get into the semis for this one. And for the fourth quarter, last but not least, give me Sinner at minus 550. Not creative, but why bother? We know that he's the best player in the world. Two-time defending champion. Just expect him to run the table in a very weak quarter. Outright, so to win the event, same as always, Sinner and Alcaraz alone. Nobody else, and we will try to save money by avoiding long shot dart throws on guys who are not good enough to beat Alcaraz or Sinner. So Sinner minus 115, Alcaraz at plus 175. Anyway, let's wrap it up for the outrights in the Aussie Open on the men's side. Time to go on into the lock and dog picks. Before we get into the actual lock and dog for the show, a reminder they're brought to you by our sponsor, Arnold Fantasy, home for pick'em entries, chance to win 5,000 times your entry. They're bringing the playoff magic all playoffs along. Every playoff weekend for the NFL, open the app, see what promos are waiting for you. If you want a profit boost, they definitely can give you that. So check out Underdog with the profit boost they have available for you. Also, if you're new to the actual platform, get a nice sign-up deal. Play just $5, $75 bonus funds when you sign up with the promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. They've been great this NFL season, crushing it on props. Check them out for other sports as well. Golf, if you want to check them out for college basketball, college football, they also have models for those too. But you can check out the models if you want to. A couple of ways to do it. You can copy the leaderboard with other models that have been successful. You can copy those. You can use Rhythm's plays alone with the Rhythm House model, or you can build your own from scratch if you want to experiment with the model building process in sports betting. But a reminder, if you want a nice discount code for the premium version, use the code SGPN25. We download the app, and you'll get a nice 25% off your first month. That's Rhythm, RATHMM, code SGPN25 for a quarter off your first month at Rhythm. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the outrights for the Aussie Open. Time to run into the lock and dog picks. For the lock, pure chalk parlay. For this one, give me Djokovic in straight sets, parlayed with Sinner in straight sets, minus 132 on DraftKings. Now, Djokovic beat Tiafoe easily in the exhibition match. We know Djokovic is phenomenal in the Australian Open every year. He does occasionally drop some sets, but he's against a pretty underwhelming hardcore player. I see a really bad matchup for Martinez, and the fact that Martinez is a clay specialist who really can't serve, I think will be in trouble over the course of this match. Maybe he forces a breaker in there, but I think Joker is simply put too good. The ground strokes are too powerful and too consistent. Martinez is not great on hard court, and the serve's going to be a problem for him in this matchup. I think Djokovic buries him. Give me a straightforward 3-0 win for Joker. And Sinner is against another bad server. Sinner is against Gaston. Sinner, though, best hardcore player in the world, two-time defending champion, and Gaston, we know, is only 5'8", really weak serve. He's kind of from the same cloth as Moutet, where he tries to be crafty, a lot of drop shots, a lot of unorthodox play. Sinner has no time for that. Sinner's going to bury the guy. Nothing else to really add there. So give me the pure chalk parlay. Give me Joker in straight sets and Sinner in straight sets at minus 132 as my lock for the show. For my dog, I'm going to go to the matchup between Vacherat and Dam. Should be a fun matchup in the first round. Give me Vacherat to win and Both players to win a set at plus 154. First things first, the total games for the match is at 40.5. If you're doing the math in your head, the most you can get in straight sets is 39. So you are picking, based on the actual games, a match that's supposed to go to at least 4 sets, with the favorite winning in kind of the same game parlay there. But Dam is a talented young American. However, he went through qualifying, but he's still mainly a challenger guy. We saw him win a match in the U.S. Open last year, whilst Tiafoe in 4. I see a similar story here. I think his serve can definitely keep him in striking distance over the course of this match. But Vacherat, we've seen play well for the last couple months. He won a title on a 1,000 event last year. And since then, he's still been competitive. The fact that Dam made it through qualifying is impressive for him. But the fact is, he's still not really I'd say, a guy that I think can piece it all together yet. I do think Vacherat's better in the rally game. Dam's also not a great returner. Vacherat's a good server too. I could see a couple of breakers in this match, but I do think that Vacherat to win the match is the most likely outcome, and I am going to go with the over as well. I think Dam does enough to win a set. I think Vacherat's proven that despite being successful, he does drop some sets here and there. So I do think that Dam could make a little bit of an impression, but not enough to win. Give me Vacherat to win and both players to win a set at plus 154 on FanDuel as my dog for the show. So once again, the lock and dog. The lock's going to be on Djokovic and Sinner, both to win in straight sets in the first round at minus 132. For the dog, I'm going to go with, once again, Vacherat to win the match and both players to win a set at plus 154 against Dam. That is available on FanDuel. Anyways, going to wrap it up for the show. Back once again in a few hours for the Women's Aussie Open preview. So keep an eye out for that. Till next time, find me on Twitter, Reichel Radio. Find the podcast on YouTube at SGPN Tennis Game Podcast. Find that on Spotify or Apple. Same thing, SGPN Gambling Podcast. Till next time, good luck to all of you and all